I'm lighting it like it's a blunt because I don't smoke cigarettes, but I need something to smoke. So, all right, what's up, Aston Mom? I just want to make this video for you because it's easier this way. I can cover a lot within a short amount of time, blah, blah, blah. So the first question is if you've ever used wee-wee pads. Wee-wee pads are no good. There's a pheromone in wee-wee pads. That pheromone is and smells like piss and shit. So if you think about what that does to the dog, how that conditions the dog, it's horrible, really. Like, I had one client that used wee-wee pads and it worked, but this client was one of my smarter clients. The amount of manipulation that she was good at was a significant factor in it. So, and manipulation is a very important factor anytime you're working with a dog. The more experience you have, of course, it's going to be easier, but honestly, sometimes it just comes down to common sense, you know? What you're trying to do is just eliminate all the factors that are hurting what you're trying to do and stress all the factors that are helping you. So, you want to play? Yeah, if you have wee-wee pads, just get rid of them. The second thing is the cage, okay? Or any type of den-like area. So it doesn't have to be a cage necessarily. You can have like a pen area. This is incredibly important. The dog is not going to shit in its own area. It's not going to happen. It'll hold it, right? But this is going to take some time. First, you have to develop the new idea to the dog that he's going to stay in that area or she's going to stay in that area for a given amount of time, right? That's going to take like 2 weeks or something. And of course, you practice it every day, right? You don't falter, right? And that goes into the sort of conversation of having a schedule, right? You want to make your schedule a little tight around the edges, right? So if you're, you know, a minute or two, 5 minutes or two is not going to make a big difference, but you want to at least have some consistency, okay? The second thing, not the second thing, but the third thing, you bring your dog out 5 times a day. That's unnecessary, okay? I don't know if you have the luxury of time, right? And that's why you're doing that. No, actually I do know why you're doing that. You're doing that because you want your dog to get tired and exercise your dog. All right, let me fill you in on something. Like I said, it's not necessary. Don't think about quantity, think about quality, okay? So when you're out with your dog, what are you doing with your dog? If you're just walking your dog, even if you're running your dog, this isn't enough, okay? Start tugging with your dog, right? And not tug of war, right? Play tug, right? So give and take. So let her pull you or him, let the dog pull you, and you pull the dog back. Let the dog pull you, pull the dog back. You can let the dog win, right? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal if the dog wins, right? If you can't get the dog to drop it, I would work on that, but this is not a time to expect obedience. This is just a play session, right? And yeah, it's very important to think like that. This is just a fun play session, lighthearted. I mean, you can make it intense, right? The more you pull, you can have the dog pull you, you know, feign weakness, right? This way the dog gets a little bit more confident within itself. Oh my God, 6 months? How? Yeah. Yes! I'm so fucking good. Fuck yeah. I just guessed the dog's age. Fuck yeah, man, I'm getting good at this shit. Woo! Fuck yeah, man. I'm so good at guessing dogs' ages. Sometimes I'm way off, but... Alright, so... Where was I? Yeah, so forget all the 5 times walk a day. When you take him out in the morning, right, or her out in the morning, play tug and make it intense. And listen, like I said, forget about 5 times a day. Dedicate 3 walks maybe at first, and then break it down. Yeah, 3 walks is better. Just dedicate more time in the walk and don't walk the dog, tug with the dog, okay? The reason for this, right, is because if you ever picture, let's take a person for example. Let's take someone who's not fit, who's overweight, doesn't eat healthy, and just is overall like not healthy, right? Let's make that person run as fast as they can for as long as they can. What's gonna happen, right? They're probably gonna throw up, right? And for sure they're gonna end up pissing and shitting, right? Right after their exercise. This is the idea, right? So, and that brings me to the next subject. It's not about punishment or rewarding the dog. You want to get out of that for right now. I'm going to come back to that later. You want to think more in terms of pressure and release and just forming good habits. So if you start taking your dog out every day and you start tugging with your dog, right? Eventually tug is not going to be like, eventually the dog is going to develop a strength, and it's going to be on your level, but that's not going to be in the beginning. You're going to kick your dog's ass for a long time in the beginning. Your dog is going to get used to it, develop strength, and the game of tug is going to, at first the game of tug is going to be all over the place. It's going to be discombobulated. It's going to be just wild, right? Embrace that. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Eventually it's going to get a lot more composed, right? But that's going to take a while. And by that time, your schedule is going to be a little bit more tighter around the edges, right? So, man, I wish I had a card on me, man. Yo, dude, if you want to help me out, dude, I can use some cards. I don't have much money, man. Like, think about if I could just give that card. That guy would definitely take my card first. Definitely take my card, and he's definitely gonna call me back. It's the best selling tool, man. Guessing a dog's age, the person gets mad impressed. I'm sure though it's the same thing like a teacher who teaches kids. I'm sure the teacher can guess the kid's age, right? Spend enough time around kids, the same shit. Anyways, let's get back to you. Yeah, so man, when you take your dog out, tug with your dog, that should make it go. And of course, always bring your dog to grass, right? If you're walking your dog on concrete or something like that, bring your dog over to where all the dogs shit and piss. The smell is just going to have a reaction, and it should make the dog shit and piss. But only if, right, of course, you change up the schedule. You just have to change where your focus is. Okay, let's talk about now your investment. Okay, this is sort of like a little, this gets a little bit deeper. And if you don't understand this, I totally understand, but try and stay with me, okay? You're thinking in terms of operant conditioning right now. Punishment, reward. This is not really a big problem. Let's take it a little step further, okay? At first, the dog is a feeling animal, right? And then it's a thinking animal, right? Everyone says, oh, the dog has a sixth sense. The dog knows what I'm doing. Using the word know connotates a thought, when really it's the heart, it's the emotional process that the dog is awesome at, right? Of course the dog, I'm not trying to insult the dog when I say the dog can't think, but thinking is not its greatest quality, I would say, right? You're saying your dog is smart. I understand what you're saying, but what I want you to think of is in terms of emotional investment. The only thing that's important to the dog is to feel good, to feel safe and good, right? Fear and attraction, basically. Very fucking simple. The problem is that if this is the only time you're investing this much emotion into your dog, then shitting in the apartment is actually something that the dog may feel is important. I know it sounds crazy, but if you understand in terms of what I call this is manifestation. So, and this plays out in so many other examples. So, if you have someone, I remember one of my favorite trainers telling a story about how he's working with the dog, right? Dog has some reactivity issues, right? And what was going on in the owner's life was that she just broke up with her husband. Well, no, her husband left her. Her husband divorced her and betrayed her, right? And so, naturally, right, the woman developed, a feeling some sort of way for men. And so, of course, when the trainer was working with the dog, he learned that just by working with the dog, that the dog felt some sort of way towards men. Okay, and if we look at that situation and we think of in terms of emotional investment, it plays out there too, and that's what I would call manifestation. It's crazy, but it makes sense. And what I would say is what you're doing at that point, right? You have to understand that the dog doesn't necessarily know right from wrong. What it definitely understands is how you feel. It can't interpret right and wrong. What it for sure interprets is intensity of feeling. So again, if this is the only time you're telling your dog to get down and stay where it is, which is basic obedience, which is something, it's good that you're doing that, but you're using it in terms of punishment, not obedience. You're thinking in terms of punishment. And there's nothing wrong with punishing a dog. It's just that if this is the only time you're exerting this amount of pressure on your dog is actually going to like it. Because you're investing your emotional energy into it. And so the dog needs to reciprocate that. Understood? What I would do is practice what you're doing, down, stay, outside, after tug, and there's no reward and there's no punishment. Get down, stay down. You practice space, you practice coming into the dog, you practice backing away from the dog. You might want to buy a long lead, a 20-foot lead, 30-foot lead, 40-foot lead, right? So you can practice distance, right? But yeah, I mean, man, I can go on, but I think I would lose you, because this is thinking in any other way but using operant conditioning, which is what any type of positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment comes from, right? It's operant conditioning. Thinking differently than that is very, I would say, sort of, a lot of people think that that's the only way that animals learn. And it's just not true. Pressure and release is, in my opinion, a little bit more advanced way to think about it. And I mean, it makes sense, you know. We're the only ones that we decide what's wrong and right, based on our judgments, which comes from thought, right? It totally negates the emotional part of it, right? And so we make a judgment. Dogs aren't able to do that. They don't have, their neurocortex almost insignificant, right? So it's not a thinking process for the dog, it's a feeling process. So yeah, so again, I'm not, I think you understand me, right? What I would do is, again, I'm just going to repeat myself. Start investing in interacting with your dog intensely in other areas of its life, and especially when you go outside and play with your dog, right? Your play sessions have to be more intense. That's it. And then once you get that down, once you get that interaction with your dog down, and you make your tug sessions more intense, there's no question that he's going to start moving his bowels, right? It happens all the time. If I work with a dog, right, I make the play sessions really intense. And oh yeah, the other thing is, if you can, make sure you get him or her to bark on command outside. If your dog can't bark on command, well, it can. It's just a process. Learn how to do it, okay? You can use food, right? You can use a toy. Doesn't matter what you use, just make it happen. This is a very intense type of activity for the dog to bark, but bark intensely, and that'll get its insides moving. You understand? And when you play tug with the dog, of course, let it win, right? Always try and let it win. Of course, if you can tell your dog to drop the toy, that's fine too. But don't ever be afraid to let your dog take the toy and just rip it out of your hands, okay? That's hunting, right? Remember, everything we're doing is simulate hunting. The closest you can get to a real hunt is where you want to go, okay? And definitely head over to naturaldogtraining.com and check out the 5 core exercises, okay? Oh no, what happened, man? This is the second time this happened, man. Fuck. Fuck, man. Oh, this is so annoying. Fucking shit, man. Alright, here we go. It's at the 8th time.